Welcome to a new episode of True Crime Murders Sweden.
You know, when you requested a deep dive into the Lisa Holm case, it really struck a chord with me. The story, it just stayed with so many people, especially in Sweden.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? The way this case, really shook people's sense of security, even in a country that's often considered very safe.
Exactly. So let's take you back to the summer of 2015. Lisa Holm, 17 years old from Skövde, had a summer job at a cafe in Blomberg, this quaint village near Kinnekulle. Imagine you're working at a cafe. It's a beautiful summer day. Everything seems peaceful. And then
And then she vanishes. June 7th, 2015, Lisa finishes her shift at 6 p.m., sends a quick text to her father saying she's on her way home, and that's the last anyone hears from her.
oh, wow. You can almost feel the tension building, right? I mean, her family rushes to the cafe, finds her moped still there, but no Lisa. Her cell phone's gone. And then they find a few of her things scattered nearby. Her jacket, her helmet. It's like puzzle pieces, but they just don't fit together yet.
Sometimes those seemingly random details, like the scattered belongings, can actually be incredibly revealing. Think about it from the perpetrator's perspective. Maybe it's an attempt to mislead investigators, throw them off the scent. Or maybe it speaks to a moment of panic, a hasty attempt to cover their tracks. Forensic experts, they live for these kinds of clues.
It's like a real-life detective story. And speaking of the investigation, the search for Lisa was massive, wasn't it?
Absolutely. For 5 long days, police, volunteers, everyone's combing the area, desperately hoping for a sign of Lisa. But then, on June 12th, the search takes a heartbreaking turn.
They find her body, hidden away in a wardrobe, inside a work shed on a nearby farm.
The way she was found. It paints a very chilling picture. Bound with silver tape and the cause of death, strangulation. It's not just about the location, it's the method, the deliberate steps taken to conceal her body. This all points to something far more sinister than a simple missing persons case. This is premeditated, a calculated crime.
So from a missing person case, everything shifts. Now it's a murder investigation, and the pressure is on to find Lisa's killer.
And in these cases, forensic evidence becomes absolutely crucial. You need something concrete, something irrefutable.
And they found it, right? DNA on Lisa's clothes. And that DNA led them straight to Nerijus Bilavicius, a 35-year-old construction worker from Lithuania who was working on that same farm where Lisa's body was discovered.
DNA analysis has become such a powerful tool in criminal investigations. It's scientific, objective, very difficult to dispute. But even with DNA evidence, investigators don't stop there. They keep digging, looking for those corroborating details.
Because a single piece of evidence, even DNA, might not tell the whole story, right?
Exactly. And that's where seemingly insignificant details can become crucial. For example, there were witnesses who described Bilavicius acting strangely after Lisa disappeared, meticulously cleaning his clothes, his shoes, almost as if he was trying to erase any trace of himself.
Wow, it's like he was trying to scrub away any connection to the crime, right?
Yeah. Those actions, they raise red flags. They fit into a pattern of behavior that investigators look for. And then there's the digital trail. Cell phone records placed Bilavicius in the vicinity of the cafe around the time Lisa disappeared. So you have the DNA, the suspicious behavior. And now his phone records put him in the same area. It's all starting to add up. Yeah, it's like a web, isn't it? You have these individual strands of evidence, and as investigators gather more information, those strands start to weave together, forming a stronger and stronger case.
And in this case, there's another strand that adds a whole other layer of complexity. Bilavicius's own brother testified against him. Can you imagine the weight of that? Testifying against your own family in a murder trial.
Family dynamics in a situation like this are incredibly complex. It speaks to the gravity of the charges and the evidence presented. I'm sure it was an incredibly difficult decision for Bilavicius's brother, but ultimately, it played a significant role in the prosecution's case.
So let's talk about the trial itself. Bilavicius maintained his innocence throughout, even with all this evidence stacked against him. I imagine that must have been incredibly difficult for Lisa's family to hear, knowing what the evidence suggested.
You can only imagine the emotional toll this must have taken on everyone involved. Remember, in the Swedish legal system, the burden of proof rests entirely with the prosecution. They have to convince the jury, beyond a reasonable doubt, that the defendant is guilty.
That's a high bar to clear, proving something beyond a reasonable doubt. So how did the prosecution build their case?
They presented a very methodical, step-by-step case. They started with the forensic evidence, the DNA match found on Lisa's clothing. That was their anchor, their undeniable link between Bilavicius and the victim. Then they layered on the witness testimonies, placing Bilovicius near the crime scene, highlighting his odd behavior afterward. And to solidify their case, they presented the cell phone records, showing his presence in the area when Lisa disappeared. It was a very strategic approach, building a timeline of events. That put Bilovicius right at the center.
And the defense. What was their strategy? How did they try to counter all of that?
Their main objective was to create doubt. They tried to challenge the reliability of some of the evidence, offering alternative explanations for Bilovicius being near the cafe, questioning the motives of some of the witnesses. But in the end, the weight of the evidence was just too much to overcome.
And in November 2015, the jury reached a verdict. Guilty. Neris Bilovicius was convicted of the murder of Lisa Holm and sentenced to life in prison, the most severe punishment in Sweden.
It was a landmark decision, reflecting the severity of the crime and the impact it had on Swedish society. The court also ordered that Bilovicius be deported to Lithuania after serving a sentence. The verdict was later upheld by a higher court in February 2016, solidifying his conviction.
So justice was served, at least legally. But as you mentioned earlier, the emotional scars run deep. A guilty verdict can't truly erase the pain for Lisa's family.
Exactly. Closure, especially in a case as tragic as this, is a very personal and complex process. The legal system provides a framework for justice. But true healing, true closure, that's something much deeper, something that might take a lifetime.
And what about Bilovicius? Did he ever express any remorse? Did he ever admit to the crime?
Throughout the trial and subsequent appeals, Bilovicius maintained his innocence. But there was a very unexpected turn of events. That added another layer of complexity to this already intricate story.
What happened?
In August 2022, while serving his sentence in a Lithuanian prison, Bilovicius was attacked by another inmate. He succumbed to his injuries a few days later.
Wow. I don't even know what to say. It's just tragic on so many levels. It's like the story took another dark turn.
It certainly did. This unexpected event added a whole new dimension to the case, raising questions about fate, justice, and the lasting impact of this crime.
So where does that leave us? What can you, as our listener, take away from this deep dive into the Lisa Holm case? What are the lasting implications? I think what strikes me, and maybe you too, is how this case really impacted Sweden as a whole. We often hear about Sweden being this safe, idyllic place. But the Lisa Holm case kind of shattered that perception, didn't it?
It definitely challenged the narrative, forcing people to confront a darker reality. This wasn't just a crime that happened in some far-off place. It happened in a small, picturesque village, the kind of place where people felt safe. And that's what made it so unsettling for so many.
Yeah, it exposed a vulnerability that people didn't want to acknowledge. A reminder that these things can happen anywhere, even in a country known for its low crime rates. Did the case lead to any changes in the way things are done in Sweden? Like with law enforcement or security measures?
It definitely sparked a national conversation about safety, especially for young women. There was a push for increased awareness, more community policing, and a reassessment of security protocols. It was a wake-up call, prompting a shift toward proactive measures rather than reactive ones.
It makes you think, doesn't it? How a single tragic event can be a catalyst for change, for a whole society to reevaluate its priorities.
It's a testament to the power of collective awareness and the desire to learn from such difficult experiences. While nothing can erase the pain of Lisa's family, the societal shifts that emerged from this case offer a glimmer of hope, a reminder that even in the face of darkness, we can strive for a safer future.
But for Lisa's family, I imagine the loss is still deeply felt. That wound might never truly heal.
Absolutely. While justice was served in a legal sense, true closure, the kind that brings solace and peace, that's something much more elusive. The sudden, violent loss of a child leaves a void that's impossible to fill.
This deep dive has been incredibly insightful, but also incredibly sad. It's hard to grapple with the senselessness of it all.
It's natural to feel that way. Cases like this force us to confront the darker aspects of human nature, the fragility of life. But it's important to remember that even amidst tragedy, there are lessons to be learned, conversations to be had, and actions to be taken to prevent such events from happening again.
You're right. We can't let fear paralyze us, but instead use it as motivation to create positive change. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's one final thought you want to leave our listener with?
The Lisa Holm case reminds us that vulnerability exists, even in the places we perceive as safe. It underscores the importance of vigilance, community, and open dialogues about personal safety. Let Lisa's story be a call to action, a reminder that we all have a role to play in creating a safer world, for ourselves and future generations.
That's a powerful message. It's a reminder that even in the face of tragedy, we can choose hope, action, and the determination to learn from the past to build a better future. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thank you.